Hi, I'm Chef Ken. On this episode of Covenant Cuisines, we're going to be talking about two very intimate dishes, dinner and breakfast. On dinner, I'll teach you how to make chicken Alfredo pasta for your newly beloved spouse. On the next one, we're going to be talking about breakfast, which is also very intimate, and I'll teach you how to make crepes with a nice apple butter and fig jam stuffing. Stay tuned. All right, guys, welcome back. So like I said earlier, we're going to be going over two dishes, two very intimate dishes that you make for your new spouse, dinner and breakfast. First, we're going to start with dinner. The ingredients you'll need will be chicken breast, shredded Parmesan, whole Parmesan, butter, Italian flat leaf parsley, lemon, of course pasta, and cream. So stay with me. I'll show you how to bring all this stuff together. All right, guys, now welcome back. First, we're going to start with measuring out our pasta. All right, so when it comes to making pasta or any kind of pasta, when you're doing spaghetti, chicken Alfredo, or any kind of ravioli, you need to make sure you have the pasta that matches with the meat, okay? Just like in the marriage, whenever a marriage is coming together, you have two people, just like how Adam had Eve, he had a helpmate suitable. So we need to have the amount of pasta that's gonna suit with the right kind of sauce. So Adam is the pasta, Eve is the sauce. So since these two work together hand in hand, we need to make sure we have the kind of sauce to match the pasta, all right? So we're gonna use small pastas in this. Normally we use fettuccine. That's what Americans always use. That's what the world use, you know, but we're gonna do something totally different with this, okay? So we're gonna take our pasta and we're gonna measure it out. So we need about 2 cups of pasta, okay? And once we measure out our pasta, we're gonna go ahead and heat up our water. 2 cups of pasta. Alright, so I'm going to take our water and we're just going to heat our water. Now when it comes to making pasta, pasta needs to be seasoned. Alright, so that means we have to add salt into the water. And not just any regular salt. We need to add salt to where it literally tastes like Galveston. That's how you want your water to taste. Once it tastes like that, that way you're gonna have the most seasoned, most opulent pasta that you're making. Okay, so of course, just like any other marriage, it's gonna withstand the test. So we gotta go through the test of tasting this sauce. Okay? So once we add the salt in, and then water starts to boil, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna test it by tasting it, okay? As we measure that out, we're gonna measure out our cream. So we have 2 cups of pasta. Next we're gonna have 1.5 cups of cream. There. All right, so now we have our pasta and our cream measured out. Next up, let's take our chicken and we're gonna season it real nice on both sides. For this, we're just gonna use salt and pepper. All right, 2 basic seasoning dishes. Here and right here. All right, remember, separate hand. We're gonna take one hand to flip and the other hand to season. Season here, done. Wash. Then we apply the pepper. We're gonna set that aside. All right, so let's get ourselves some parsley. We're gonna take a nice little bunch of parsley off the top, and this is just gonna be for garnishing, okay? We're gonna take our knife, and we're just gonna rock through it, just like this. Get a rough chop, and then we're gonna pass back and forth. So as we pass back and forth, we're gonna slowly mince it into small pieces, okay? And this is just be for garnishing, remember that. Italian flat leaf parsley doesn't carry a lot of strong flavors like curly parsley, right? It's very nice and subtle and soft. Remember, because the only thing we want to do is focus on the 2 things, which is the pasta and the sauce, okay? So once we get that chopped up nice and neat, I'm gonna add that into our area for later. As our water's heating up, we're gonna start cooking our chicken. So let's get a nice medium hot pan going. And once that pan gets hot, that's when we're gonna add our chicken. One thing you wanna know about the oil is when it's ready to add the chicken, the oil will move freely around. So as we add in our oil, slowly here, and we wait. As it heats, we're gonna wait for it to kind of slosh around very easily. Just like how you bring the fire back into your marriage. From those who've been married for 20, 30 plus years, same thing here. Everything begins to move freely and flow freely like water. So now that we got the oil freely flowing around, let's go ahead and add in our chicken. And as the chicken goes in, we want to add it away from us, not close to us, where just in case something splatters, you don't want any hot grease to jump on you. So you want to add it away here, okay? All right, so as we get our grease hot and ready to go, we're gonna add in our pasta. So as we slowly add in our pasta, we're just gonna let that cook for about 8 to 12 minutes, constantly stirring, releasing the starches. Just like how husband's supposed to constantly nurture and care and love for their wife, it starts to release the starches. That's what releases the tenderness of the pasta. So as we continue to stir and move around and check on it, we begin to go in and do that. Just like I said, like in a marriage. All right, so we're gonna let that go and let the heat continue to cook their pasta very slowly. On the other hand, we still have our chicken going. While that's going, we're gonna let it cook on one side to get a nice good sear, and then we're gonna flip it over. And as we flip it over, we're gonna transport it into the oven and let it finish cooking for about 12 to 14 minutes, okay? All right guys, so now our chicken's in the oven, our pasta's finished, so now let's start working on the sauce. So now we're gonna work on putting everything together, slowly but surely, okay? So we have our 2 cups of cream, and then we have our shredded Parmesan. All right, so we're gonna add our cream into a nice pan to kind of get it simmering, not boiling like while it's rupturing like that. We wanna get it nice and simmering, where we have little bubbles around the edges of it. Then we're gonna slowly add in the cheese as we whisk it to combine it. And then once those things are fully combined together, it's gonna make like a nice thick bubble, almost like a cauldron, okay? And then at that moment, that's when we're gonna add in our pasta. Once we add in the pasta, we're gonna add in the butter on top of it, and then we'll be finished, okay? So let's go ahead and get that started. All right guys, so how was that? Chicken Alfredo pasta, amazing, wasn't it? All right, so now we're gonna move into another intimate dinner, breakfast actually. So we're gonna move to making crepes. So crepes is something like, think of a French pancake, okay? You make your own filling, you put it into it, whatever you wanna put into it to get the best outcome you have. Top with a little bit of powdered sugar, and you can add a little bit of mint. Like I said in the last one, the husbands always add that final zing to it, so add the mint right on top of it. And then we're gonna go from there, all right? So let's go ahead and get started with that. So, next up, we're gonna add in the water. And that'll be 1/2 cup. So, do 1/2 cup of water. Okay, so now, next up, we're gonna do 1/2 cup of milk. And all of these ingredients, this is the easiest thing about these. All of these ingredients are gonna go all together into the blender, okay? So once we add that in, we're just gonna blend it all together. All right, and then next up, we're gonna take 2 eggs, crack those in there just like this. Okay, and then we have 3 tablespoons of butter. So the butter we're gonna melt for later to add in at the very end, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and add all the ingredients into our mixer, okay? So first, let's go ahead and add the milk. All right. Then we're gonna next add the water in. Okay. Let's add in our eggs. And then our flour. Let's easily add that in there. Then, what we're gonna do, we're gonna slowly start processor on a very low start. Alright, so let's move on to the cooking phase. So like we said earlier, we're gonna go ahead and get started on cooking the crepes, okay? So we wanna take a nice cast iron skillet. Most people would use a griddle, but I like to take it old school and use a cast iron skillet that was handed down from my grandmother to my mom, and this is something that I've been using for a long time. Just like when you get married, they have the old saying, something old, something new, something borrowed, which is this, and then something blue. I really don't get the whole concept of that, but we're just gonna roll with it anyway for how this sounds. All right guys, so now we have the butter in, and we're just gonna slowly melt the butter. Now we're gonna keep the heat control very easily, so we don't wanna brown the butter. If we brown the butter too fast, guess what? We'll end up burning our crepe, okay? So we're just gonna let that butter kinda move around in there just like that, okay? We're gonna keep it just like that. So as it begins to melt, we're gonna take our crepe batter, and we're just gonna add a thin layer. Remember, very thin layer here, okay? So as that layer begins to thin out, guess what we're gonna do? Just like how we did the butter, we're gonna move it all the way around, okay? So that way it gets a nice thin coat. Now if you want, you can still take it, you can make a crepe how big, how small you want. You can just add as much as you want to there, just like that, okay? And that's just how your preference is. But remember, we want to keep it nice and thin because the crepe is this outer layer is what hides everything that's on the inside, which is the flavoring or the filling that we want to add to it. So we're going to take our rubber spatula and we're just going to rim the outside of it just like that. As you can see, our crepe kind of slowly moves around. See how freely it moves like that? All right guys, so now we see the ridges coming up. So now it's time to go ahead and flip our pancake. You can use a rubber spatula to flip it, or if you want to just go ahead and take that brave leap, like when you took that leap to say I do, go ahead and do it. There we go, just like that, okay? And we're gonna let that cook on one side, and then that just needs to cook for a little bit. Once it cooks for a little bit, guess what? We're gonna take it over here and we're gonna lay it on our plate. All right guys, so just how quick that is, we're here right now ready to go ahead and get started plating, okay? So now we have our two crepes laid out right here, ready for the filling to be inserted, then we're gonna go ahead and plate, okay? So what I would love to do, I like figs. I love figs when it comes to figs, black mission figs, brown turkey figs, you name it. Figs are amazing when it comes to doing different desserts or different fillings. And so that's what we're gonna do right here. We're gonna make a fig jam to go inside of everything, okay? So we're gonna take the fig jam and then we're gonna add it right here on the inside, okay? And just gonna kind of smooth that out, just like that, all right? And the great thing about crepes is you don't need to add a lot to it, because remember, the whole basis is you want to still taste the batter, but you don't want everything to kind of be all overwhelming. Just like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, okay? So do this one here, just like that. And just gonna spread that out, okay? All right, so after we spread it out like this, you're gonna fold in half, and then you're gonna roll just like that. Long ways across the plate, okay? Fold in half, smash it down a little bit, fold, and then boom, two symmetrical pieces of crepes. Then we're gonna finally add our powdered sugar to it. And you can add as much powdered sugar as you want to it, to your liking, okay? So as you add that, then two pieces of leaves of mint, and we're just gonna stick that right here. Nice garnish. Boom. And then for the final, you can just add like a slither of powdered sugar right on top of there. And then we're finished. Here we go. Fig jam crepes. A taste of France right here in your own bedroom. Okay? So you got your honeymoon and your first day of marriage all in one place.